What's going on, everybody? Moniz here, and welcome back to another camera comparison. Today we're comparing the beautiful iPhone XR $750 US versus the OnePlus 6T, $200 cheaper. Now, I don't expect the OnePlus 6T to win this camera comparison, but it will be nice to see how close these two phones are. The first photo sets a base tone for both cameras. As you can see, the 6T likes to boost up the contrast, crush the blacks, and give you more of a vibrant tone, whereas the iPhone XS has more of a warmer tone, less over sharpening going on, but you don't get a more vibrant photo. So again, we have a very similar situation, but because the 6T is boosting up that contrast and crushing those blacks, you're losing some detail. And this is very apparent if you look at the little building on the right-hand side. You can't see those bars going down it with the 6T, but you can see them clearly on the iPhone XS. Besides that, again, you're getting more of a warmer tone, and whether you find one more appealing over the other really comes down to your personal preference. So in this very simple photo, I think this is where boosting up the contrast and crushing the blacks makes the image look better overall. As you can see, the pumpkins are more vibrant. The picture itself looks very nice and clean. The XS looks also great. The pumpkins may not be as vibrant, they're pretty close, but again, you're getting more of a warmer tone, and because it's not boosting up the contrast, you're not getting as much vibrancy. So in this picture of the Statue of Liberty, the iPhone XS definitely did a better job of dynamic range. If you look at the OnePlus 6T, the picture overall is a bit too dark when it was a lot brighter on this day. Also, the Statue of Liberty is a lot more visible with the XS. There's too much shadow going on. You're losing some of that detail because the 6T is crushing those blacks and boosting up the contrast. So again, another example of what's happening here, 6T boosting up the contrast, crushing those blacks, giving the photo a nice vibrant but darker look. XS, a little bit more warm, lifting the shadows, and that's very apparent under the Brooklyn Bridge. If you look at the posts on the iPhone XS, you can actually see some of that detail, whereas on the 6T, it's been completely lost due to crushing those blacks. Now it's time to take things indoor and check out this beautiful cock. In fact, in Portugal, he's known as the good luck cock. And as you can see here, the 6T is definitely boosting up the contrast. In fact, it's taking those red tones and putting them all over the picture. If you look at the granite, there's too much red inside of the granite, which does not look like that in real life. So now we have a macro shot of a bunch of fake lemons. And as you can see here, boosting that contrast and crushing the blacks gives the 6T more of an appealing look. The iPhone's not too bad. It looks a lot more natural, but I'm gonna give the slight edge to the 6T in this situation. Now it's time to talk about nighttime photos, and this is where bumping up that contrast, over sharpening the image gives the 6T a more appealing look. But because of that, you are losing a lot of detail. There's a building on the left-hand side of the middle building, and you cannot see it at all on the 6T, where you can kind of make it out on the XS, because again, the 6T is crushing those shadows and the iPhone XS is lifting them so you get more detail. And the same thing is happening on the building between the Barclays Center and the tower in the middle. The other thing, exposure is actually better on the 6T, and you can see that with one of the signs on the bottom of the building. You can completely read it on the 6T, but it's not noticeable on the XR. So here's another nighttime photo. This one has lots of lights going on. It's a great way to see how both cameras handle it. Definitely the XR looks better. It did a better job of the exposure. There's a lot more light in the photo itself, and it just looks a lot cleaner. There's a lot more noise going on with the 6T. The lights are completely overexposed, and the image itself looks a little bit too yellow. But once you turn on Nightscape, things change. The image is a lot cleaner. The lights are actually exposed well, but one thing I did find the 6T is to darken the photo too much. Overall, it's a step forward. It's an improvement over the previous photo, but I still think the iPhone XR looks better. Again, we have a very similar situation. We have the Empire State Building. It's better in focus with the iPhone XR. Trust me, I took it more than once on the 6T. The exposure is also better. If you look at the sign just below the Empire State Building, you can actually read most of it on the XR, where it's completely not visible except for the first word on the 6T. But once you turn on Nightscape, again, the photo gets cleaned up a little bit. It's not as dramatic as, let's say, the P20 Pro or even Google's Night Sight, but it is better than taking a regular photo at night. The image is now in focus. You can have better exposure. You can actually read the sign below the Empire State Building. In this situation, I actually kind of like the 6T better. Now it's time to talk about selfies. And as you can see here, the XR is keeping things warm. It has aggressive noise reduction happening, which is giving me the effect of my skin being smooth. 6T More over sharpening is going on. Contrast is being boosted. Blacks are being crushed. In fact, I like the way my jacket looks better on the 6T, but my face looks a lot more natural on the 10R. I'm gonna give this a tie. It really depends what kind of look you're going for. So again, we have the exact same photo, but this time with portrait mode on. Both phones did a pretty good job. The iPhone 10R, again, smoothing the skin using aggressive noise reduction. Let's just talk about the blur for a second. There's definitely a lot more blur in the background with the iPhone 10R. In fact, it's so overpowering it's starting to look fake compared to the 6T. I think the 6T has more of a natural blur compared to the 10R. Again, if you look at the trees in the background, the 10R is doing a better job of lifting the shadows to show more detail, whereas on the 6T, it's crushing those blacks and you're losing some of that detail. Now, when it comes to portrait mode for the rear camera, I'm giving it to the 10S. It's not boosting up the contrast like the 6T. The 6T is boosting the contrast and making the image look a little too red and smoothing out the skin too much. Also, the buildings in the background of the 6T, the highlights are completely blown out, making the photo look overexposed. This is the front-facing camera test. We have the iPhone and the OnePlus 6. Based on what I'm seeing right now, it looks like the iPhone might be better, but it's hard to tell because I can't see what it looks like after the fact, so you guys let me know in the comments below. And finally, we have 4K video, and as you can see here, both are doing a pretty good job of stabilization, but again, there's a lot less bouncing up and down going on the 10R. It looks a lot cleaner. The colors also look a lot more vibrant, and it's doing a better job with exposure. So that pretty much wraps up my camera comparison between the iPhone 10R and the OnePlus 6T. As expected, I did not expect the OnePlus 6T to beat out the 10R, and it shouldn't. I mean, this is a cheaper phone, but for the price, it actually does a really good job. Overall, nighttime photos are still better on the 10R, and most daytime photos are still better on the 10R. The only thing that really takes advantage with this phone is if you like your photos to be a little bit more vibrant, and I think the selfies are actually pretty good on the 6T. So that wraps up my camera comparison between both of these devices. Let me know in the comments below which one is your favorite and why. If you like the video, hit the like button. If you're new to the channel, subscribe. Follow me on Instagram for some behind the scenes. Hit me up on Discord if you have any questions, and I'll see you guys in the next video.